This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 129 with Joette Calabrese.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
I'm Kate, and I want to welcome you to the podcast today. We're so glad you're here. I want to thank you for taking the initiative to learn about homeopathy, which will have a big impact on your life. And if you're new here, we want to welcome you. Today's podcast, Joette is going to share some tips on how to overcome anxiety and panic attacks. So let's get started. Hi, Joette.
Hi, Kate.
It's so exciting. This is a huge topic because I know anxiety can be so debilitating. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to address this homeopathically. It's really the only way that I know of that can really calm down anxiety and panic attacks. What are your thoughts?
Well, there are psychotropic drugs that someone could use, and that can calm down a certain amount of anxiety, but then you pay for it in another way. There's no such thing as a synthetic drug of commerce that is as simple as, oh, just take it and you'll be just fine. No, there's always a downside. And the downside can be pretty sobering. We don't want to get into a situation where someone depends on a synthetic drug. So one of the ways that we can look at this, or actually the main way to look at this, is that with homeopathy, the homeopathic medicines correct the problem. They don't just cover it up for the next opportunity that the panic or the anxiety attack presents again. Whereas with conventional drugs, you are assigned to those drugs for months, years, decades. In homeopathy, after using the homeopathic medicine, sometimes only a couple of doses, sometimes only a couple of doses here and there over a period of weeks or months, it's over. Now, what do I mean by over? It means there are no more panic attacks. They simply don't occur. And it's not because it's been suppressed or stuffed down into the person only to come up like pressing down on a water balloon so that it bulges up somewhere else. No, it uproots the condition. It stops it. It ends it. So that then it becomes a mere memory, even a dim memory in your thinking, so that you can get on with your life. So I talk about this all the time, problem with anxiety or panic attacks. Either one. We're going to be talking about both today. But I talk about them in my blogs, which you really ought to take advantage of. They're free. You can access them on a regular basis anytime you'd like. In my courses, we have a course called Mindful Homeopathy, in which I go into greater depth of exactly how to utilize these medicines, although I'm going to give you good information today, even without perhaps taking an entire course. Because here's the thing. When someone has anxiety, it is such a huge roadblock that it seems as though nothing else can be taken care of in that day. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter that you have to tend to the children. It almost doesn't matter that you're supposed to be sleeping. It almost doesn't matter that you're supposed to be having fun with your family. It takes such precedent over your life that it colors everything. It's as though you're putting on a pair of glasses that give you a completely different perspective. But that's the downside of life. The upside is we have homeopathy. And homeopathy is the only medicine that I'm aware of that has the ability to resolve this. So, let's start with one medicine that I've talked about so many times because it was such an influence in my life and in many others' lives. And it's so ubiquitous. It's a common medicine that is used in so many people's lives. That's what I mean to say. And that medicine is Aconitum napellus. The short version is aconite, but it's Aconitum napellus. Now, here's the thing. I don't leave home without it. I keep it in my little makeup bag in my purse at all times. I would never leave home without it. Why? Not because I get panic attacks. I used to many years ago until I started to use this medicine and another one we're going to be talking about. But those times are over for me. I can live a very comfortable life because I don't have to worry about anxiety or panic or over worry, etc. So I keep it in my purse because the thing, and this is what I want to make clear to you today, the thing about aconitum is that it's often 1 minute you're fine and the next minute it's bam, and you're hit with this terrible panic or this terrible anxiety. And the reason I keep it in my purse is because if I'm in an automobile accident or someone else is in some kind of an accident, 1 minute everything is just fine. You're just running through life. And then all of a sudden, bam, you're hit with something. It could be an automobile accident. It could be falling off of a bicycle. It could even be, it doesn't have to be an injury. It could be you're feeling just fine. And all of a sudden, bam, it feels like you're coming down with something. Oh my gosh, my chest feels very full. 2 minutes ago, I didn't even notice this. Now it's all of a sudden. So it's a quick onset, a fast onset of a sense of impending doom. That sense of, oh my gosh, something really bad has just happened. Sometimes it's because something bad really did happen. But many other times, we can't even put our finger on it. Why do I feel like this? It's only a cold. Or why do I feel like that? I don't even have a cold. There's nothing going on except that I feel this sense of impending doom, this panic, like I'm really in serious trouble here. And years ago, when I was poking through Materia Medicas, which is, of course, the material of our medicines, which is an anthology of our homeopathic medicines and a description of them. We have many Materia Medicas authored by many great homeopaths. I came across this sentence that really struck me. In fact, it struck me so strongly that I wrote down the date that it really hit me because someone I know, as well as myself, had suffered a shock earlier in life and found that ever since that time, it's as though it was stuck. And so this is what I wrote. Actually, I wrote, Joette discovered this particular line August 14th, 1996. It took me a few years to actually embody this idea. And this is what the sentence read. And I'm reading from the Desktop Guide by Roger Morrison. This author has a way of putting things eloquently. He says, aconite can release a shock or fright that has been held in the body or mind for a lifetime. That's a powerful statement, my friends. If the person has had panic attacks for the last 15 years of their life, for example, or anxiety, even low-level background music, as I used to call it when I used to have it years ago, ever since a specific event, they were caught in an earthquake. They got stuck in an elevator for several hours. Somebody attacked them and they were fearful of their life. They had a very frightening experience during birth. Aconitum can uproot that. So we're not going to just guess that that's what happened. But if we could say, oh my gosh, yes, there was a significant event in my life 15 years ago. And just around that time, it seems as though I've had this anxiety for no apparent reason or for an apparent reason. And so what do we do with that? Okay, aconite fits the picture. Now what do we do? Well, we use the remedy Aconitum napellus. I prefer 200C, although a 30 could be used, 30C could be used, 30X could be used, 200X. But my preference, because it's so readily available in today's world, is Aconitum napellus 200C. And during an event of panic or even just simple low-level anxiety, the person takes a dose. Now, some people may say, what do you mean during an event? I have this all the time. Okay, then you just take it. It's often best used before bed. Doesn't have to be. What if it's a true anxiety attack at noon? Does that mean we have to wait to take it before bed? No. We take it as needed. We take a dose, and then we check out, how do we feel even 2 hours later, 12 hours later, 24 hours later? And we kind of test, how do we feel? Oh my goodness, you know what? I kind of forgot about it. Now, sometimes one dose will do it. I know, sounds strange, doesn't it? But perhaps instead it might need to be used once a day, every day for a few days. We're always looking to back off of the medicine, because this is not something that I want you to get hooked on.
And it's not a supplement.
It's not a supplement or a vitamin. This is a medicine that is intended to uproot the condition. And over a period of time, it could be just one dose, could be 3 doses over a period of 3 days, could be 5 doses over a period of 5 days. You should find that you've just forgotten about being anxious. It just doesn't show up. And a lot of times people don't even realize. Life just goes on and they don't think about it any longer. That's the way this medicine can act.
So if someone was having a panic attack and they took a dose of Aconitum and then it subsided and things felt a little better, and then in another 30 minutes or an hour, all of a sudden they started feeling that panic coming back on, could they take another dose of the Aconitum?
Yes, they could. I would not encourage taking it much more frequently than, say, once every hour or so. But if it doesn't act in a dose or 2 or 3 doses, then over a period of a few hours, it's likely not the correct medicine. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a little while. Before I go into that, choosing a second choice medicine, I want you to also think about this as a medicine that is really great when someone has a fear, an extreme anxiety before surgery or after surgery, because surgery is a shock to the system. And the person intuitively knows that they're about to go through something that's like a world war on their body. You know, surgery is a big deal. People take it very nonchalantly these days, but I disagree. I think they should not be thinking of it that way. If one is absolutely in need of surgery, then it can be a wonderful thing. Surgery can be very useful in the hands of a good surgeon. However, surgery is often overused. And tonsillectomy, I could keep going, all kinds of skin conditions that are surgically removed, a hysterectomy. Many of these are superfluous. These are conditions that can be treated homeopathically more often than not. And so those surgeries are superfluous. But let's say you don't know that. You haven't even thought about the possibility of being able to treat tonsils that the ear, nose, throat doctor is eager to remove. Perhaps you don't know that you don't really need a hysterectomy for fibroids. Perhaps you don't know all of that, but yet you're still afraid. So this could be an entree into the world of homeopathy by simply saying, I am really scared of this surgery. Or after the surgery, boy, I had this terrible anxiety. Aconitum napellus, 200C, before bedtime often, or during a panic attack for a few doses, meaning could be over a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, and see how you feel. And my guess is, more often than not, if you're following what I'm saying here, and you know that Aconitum is the right medicine because we have others from which to choose, if you feel pretty confident that this is a good descriptor, then Aconitum napellus 200C often will work very nicely for most people.
How about right during the birthing process, when you're giving birth and you have that fear, would aconite be the remedy for that?
I'm so glad you asked that, Kate. Thank you. Yes, it's one of our best medicines for when the mother is going through labor and she's saying, I'm really anxious. I feel like something's wrong. Something's wrong with the baby. Something's wrong with me. And to her, it feels as though she's intuiting this. Now, she may be, but it's more often likely, if everything looks proper according to the midwife or to her family members, that she's really just fine, but she's feeling anxious, then a dose or 2 of Aconitum napellus 200C administered, a few minutes apart perhaps, will calm her down and she'll be able to move forward and to get to the task at hand. So it's a great medicine for during labor and after labor.
Let's talk about another medicine now. If Aconitum doesn't act What might you consider next?
Well, there's a common sense in people, especially women. I don't hear it from men. I hear this from women who have this inexplicable fear of going over bridges. They've always driven over bridges, but something in their life perhaps changed. Maybe they had an event that was frightening. Maybe they were sick from something, or whatever the reason is. We don't even have to know the etiology. But we do know that now this person, or perhaps all their life, has this fear of traveling over a bridge. Aconitum is certainly something that could be considered, but I actually prefer to use a different medicine when it is specifically for fear of going over bridges, and that's Argentum nitricum. Short version is Arg-Nit, but the long version is Argentum nitricum. Again, I like a 200C. Could we use a 30? Yes, we could. If that's what you've got, then that's what you use. So Argentum nitricum 200C, perhaps if it's not something that this person suffers from regularly, just thinking about bridges will make them wake. Perhaps it's only when they're traveling and they really don't want to go over that bridge, but they know that's the only way they're going to be able to get to their children's house. So they must do it. Then the moment they start thinking about it and the anxiety starts to build and the fear starts to quake, then that's when they utilize the remedy Argentum nitricum 200C right as soon as it begins. Because why would you suffer it if it was needless? So you use the Argentum nitricum. It may need to be used again that day, maybe once or twice a day for a few days, perhaps leading up to the road trip that's forthcoming. And then now you watch and see if they're better, then you stop. They've gone over the bridge. What we normally see is that they can still go over the bridge. They still have some angst, but it's not so overwhelming that it's incapacitating. And then they can breathe comfortably after having gone over the bridge. And if it remains that they still have the anxiety, another dose of Argentum nitricum might be in order. But now they've finished and it's over with. Now, say 2 weeks later, they're going to have to go back again and they start thinking about it again. What we should see is a slight lessening of the condition, meaning there's less intensity to the anxiety. It's not nearly as great as it was before taking Argentum nitricum. It might also, number 2, last a shorter amount of time. And number 3, there's a larger space between each time that it occurs. In other words, the next time they have to go over a bridge, they might not be so anxious, but the 4th time they have to go over a bridge, now it's happening again. So what we're looking for is any one of those 3 criteria being met. If 2 of them are met, or if all 3 of them are met, then we know we are definitely on to the right homeopathic medicine to treat anxiety from going over bridges. So the first rule is less intensity. The second, lasting for a shorter period of time. And the third, a larger space between each time the person suffers from this anxiety. Now, having said that, Argentum nitricum covers many other conditions that have to do with fear. But I'm just using this as an example. There are many other worries. There are, there's claustrophobia. There's a tremendous sense of heights, fear of heights. That's really big. Bridges often represent heights, but they also represent being hemmed in, anxiety about being alone, anxiety about their health, etc. All of those kinds of conditions can also be related to Argentum nitricum. I just use this one as an example because it's so common.
And fear of flying in airplanes also
can
be.
Fear of flying in airplanes. Thank you. Yes. Same idea. In a way, it's a fear of heights. It's also feeling hemmed in, feeling as though they have no control over anything. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes.
And it could also be the medicine that helps someone for panic attacks and anxiety attacks as well in general.
That's right. Sometimes when we use a medicine, let's say we think, this really does sound like Aconitum napellus would be the remedy that would help me the most. And it's used for a few times and it works nicely. And then the 5th or 6th time it's needed, say 6, 8, 10 months later, it's not working so well anymore. So what is the person experiencing now? And I'm really emphasizing that word now because it might be different. You might think at first blush that this is just what I had 6 months ago and it's back again. Oh no. Instead, you might actually say, you know what? It really isn't quite the same. It really isn't panic any longer. It's more about that fear of heights. I have to get on a flight and I'm just so uncomfortable about it. I can't really put my finger on it. And then they think something has shifted. What has shifted? Homeopathic medicine, Aconitum, likely shifted this person to a different way of experiencing the panic, but a slightly, perhaps milder version of it. And then we can consider going to Argentum nitricum. In other words, just because Aconitum worked in the beginning and it helped to a certain degree, but it has now stopped helping, doesn't mean it's the only medicine. I mean, if I were to crack open my repertory right now and we looked under anxiety, we would probably see about 80 to 100 medicines that could be considered. All I'm doing right now, and what I try to do on a regular basis on my blog and this podcast and my courses and the academy, et cetera, Joette's Mighty members, is to get people to see that there are certain homeopathic medicines that are more commonly found useful so that it can make it a little bit easier to come up with a medicine that could be of help. It's not 100%, my friends, but it's a great place to start.
What's interesting, I think, about Argentum nitricum is that it can also be used for fear of having a panic attack. So,
yes, the fear of, absolutely. Fear of being alone. Anxiety about even looking at a tall building, even looking at a bridge, just thinking of a bridge. Not unlike, some people get squeamish and have a sense of ick when they look at a snake. Just the sight of a snake on a computer screen can send them into a frenzy. This is the same idea, only this is for heights and flying, et cetera, et cetera.
Or before you going to the dentist in your anticipatory. Yeah.
Yes. And so what I always urge folks to do before they even use a homeopathic medicine is to go to your Materia, Medica, and read up on the medicine. See how it fits. Look at the medicines that I've discussed here and see if they fit properly into this person's demeanor. So what do? You simply go to joettecalabrese.com or practicalhomeopathy.com and scroll down to shop. And there you'll find my Materia Medica that you can purchase.
Right. It's under books and CDs. But also you had mentioned earlier that mindful homeopathy course, and that is located under shop in courses. So you'll find that there. And we'll put some links for you who are listening to all of these different resources so you can access them easily. They'll be on with the podcast notes on the website as well.
That's right. So you can go online and just look at Materia Medicas, old-time Materia Medicas that are very valuable. They're authored by the great minds of homeopathy, Dr. Fatak, Phatak, Dr. Boricke, Boericke. So these are online free sites where you can read up on the homeopathic medicine that you're thinking about taking. And I urge folks to do this. Again, I love that Kate said these are not supplements, these homeopathic medicines. They're not regulated by Food and Drug Administration under supplements. They're regulated as medicines, as drugs, even though they're not synthetic and they don't have side effects, and they are not owned by a particular company. They are made from natural substances with no additives and, again, no side effects. So this is the medicine that you've been waiting for. This is the medicine we all thought we were getting when we used to go to a doctor and ask for something to cure us. Conventional drugs do not cure, my friends. They hold the symptoms down, they hold it at bay, and eventually it can cause more trouble than what was ever intended. And often people don't make that connection. The doctor who prescribed the drug, I can guarantee, will not make that connection that the drug he or she prescribed is now causing the newest condition, because it seems unassociated, but we know that it is if we simply read what the side effects are of each of the conventional drugs that a person is taking. Okay, we're going to leave with one last one. So let's look at Arsenicum Album. Arsenicum Album and Aconitum are very closely related. They are related because it has a quick onset. Arsenicum can also have a quick onset, but Arsenicum Album often has the sense of panic or anxiety related to poison, such as bad food. I mean, really bad food, chicken that was tainted, or a drug that someone took, whether prescribed over the counter or even street drug. Arsenicum Album can also come about when there's another kind of poison, such as an animal poison, if someone has been stung by an insect and they're having anxiety or panic. So Arsenicum album is similar in that there's a sense that they're not going to survive this. They feel as though they're going to die. Same thing with Aconitum. They feel as though they're going to die. So does all of them feel as though they're about to die. But Arsenicum album is different in that the person has a kind of a physical appearance. They get restless. They often pace, or they fidget, or they're loquacious. They talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. There's the anxiety. Others can observe it. They're also fastidious. If there's anything untidy about the surroundings that they're in, they must tidy it up. They cannot stand anything that's out of order. So they will try to tidy things up in spite of being anxious. There can also be a prominent physical aspect to Arsenicum album. There can be diarrhea. There can be nausea. There can be burning in the stomach, burning in the throat. So that too can be very good indicators to help you choose or differentiate between Aconitum, Argentum nitricum, and Arsenicum. And these are our anxiety, A, remedies, all starting with the letter A. Aconitum, Argentum nitricum, Arsenicum. These are our anxiety medicines. If you or anyone in your family suffers from anxiety attacks, panic, etc., it is time to get a hold of these medicines and give them a try. Whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to take the first, second, or the third, there are many others as well, but let's start with these three. Stay with it. Don't shift around. Don't flip over from one to the other. I don't know if this is working fast enough. Maybe I need to go to the next one. There is a tendency to do that when we're in a state of anxiety, but I urge you to just give the medicine its due and then move to another one if there truly is no improvement with the first or the second, or even the third for that matter.
Okay, good. And if you want to know more, there is some blogs that are on your website, Joette. And I just want to mention them, and we'll again put the links in the podcast notes for those who want to read up on the medicines in another format. One is called A Dog with Anxiety. There's a homeopathic solution. Another is Anxiety When the Elevator Flies to the Top. And the third, You Mean Summer is Over When Back to School Results in Anxiety and Panic Attacks. Homeopathy Saves the Day. Oh, I just remembered one more. The blog is titled Must Have Memorial Day Medicines for Hay Fever, Overindulgence, and Anxiety. So there you can find the information that Joette covered and much more on those blogs. So as we finish up the podcast today, Joette, can you tell the listeners what might be their next steps if they are trying to learn more about these medicines, or maybe they're new and they don't know where to start? What would you recommend?
I would recommend that you strongly consider joining Joette's Mighty Members. It's a very inexpensive first step. If you're already a member of Joette's Mighty Members, you might want to go to Joette's Mighty Members Plus, which is even more information. And this is information that I'm not willing to give to the general public. Because you're a member and you pay a small monthly subscription, I give you information that I will only tell my dear students who are in my academy or in my other forums, as well as in the Mighties. I'm not willing to share anywhere else. Then another possibility is to join a gateway study group. There you're going to learn from someone who guides you through the studies, the methods that I use, and you'll learn it with other people. And that is invaluable, to be able to work with others, other people from all over the world. You meet on Zoom, or you can meet locally as well. And that's a great way to meet people of like minds. Then there are also my courses. And there you'd go to Joette's Learning Center, and you'll find my courses. Scroll down and determine which course is best for you. If you purchase it as a group member, you'll get a substantial discount. Now, let's say you've used all of these methods, and you've also been on my blog for these 14 years that I've been producing the blog, and you've been listening to this podcast. And I want you to remember that there's always the Practical Academy, the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, which is a very specific academy where I personally teach my students for a year-long program. And should they choose to go to the second year, go into the mastery program, where I teach you the methods that I've been using for the last 36 years of my professional life and how I've been able to help tens of thousands of people. So there's a ladder that you can climb. You can stop at rung 1. You can stop at rung 4. And you can go all the way to the top and go through the academy and the mastery program. And so with that, I wish you the best. I want you to have, my friends, sprezzatura. It's a beautiful Italian word, which means knowing how to do something or presenting something that is really seemingly quite complex or is actually quite complex, but presenting it in a way that is with beautiful nonchalance. I want you simply to know Aconitum for this situation, Argentum nitricum for that situation, Arsenicum Album for this other situation. No one will have to know all the time and effort that you've put into learning these 3 medicines. What they will see only is this perfection of this medicine in your hands.
Thank you, Joette. That was so helpful.
Thank you, Kate. It was great. It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free without affiliates or advertising here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday Night Lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse joetteslearningcenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.